Uniforms may have accidentally been thrown away this weekend, but the Viking women made sure not to follow it with a throwaway performance. We'll have the full story on that a little later from Coach Grauth, but for now, we welcome you to Augustana All Access. It was another tough pair of road games for both the men's and women's teams as they traveled to Upper Iowa and Winona State. Let's go ahead and take a look back at the highlights, starting with Friday night's game against the Upper Iowa Peacocks. The women took on an Upper Iowa team who was just 2-10 on the season, and right away it's Shelby Selland that opens up scoring for both teams with this shot from behind the arc. Augustana would go on to outscore the Peacocks 15-12 in the first quarter, and they'd extend their lead to 7 by the break. Third quarter here with just under 4 minutes on the clock when Lindsey Prosser drives inside for the quick basket. She and Logan O'Farrell would lead the team with 13 points, helping the Vikings take down Upper Iowa 65-49. Switching to the men, it was a back-and-forth affair with 7 lead changes and no team taking the lead by more than 6 points. The Peacocks were able to make up those points from behind the foul line, going 21 of 26. We take you to the final few seconds of the game. Under 10 seconds left when Jordan Spencer makes a must-make layup to tie the game up at 91 with just 5 seconds left. But Upper Iowa's Carson Parker would bust that bubble just 4 seconds later with a 3-point shot. Upper Iowa defeats Augustana 95-91, adding another close loss in their record. It's actually Augustana's 4th straight loss that has come down to the final few seconds of the game. Saturday's matchup would take the Vikings to Winona, Minnesota to take on the Warriors. The women's team up first to take on the 17th team in the nation. Warriors go on a 9-0 run to put Augustana behind, but Naomi Rust helps Augie get within 2 with a hard-fought layup, and that would start the momentum the Vikings would need. Augustana would go on to hit 51% of their shots on the night and make 9 3-pointers. Augie upsets Winona State, giving them their largest conference loss of the season, 80-63. For the second week in a row, the Vikings are able to bounce back in their Saturday night game after dropping Fridays. Right away, it's Zach Huskins for the layup. He'd be one of 4 Vikings to reach double figures. John Warren would add 7 of his own, including this drive inside. And let's go back to Huskins quickly with this change of hands under the basket. Mike Busak on a mission to the basket, but is met by 2 defenders. One Warrior basically feeds the ball to Huskins, and he finishes the possession with a basket. Jordan Spencer would lead his team for the second night in a row with 22 points after putting up 34 the night before. This game comes down to the final minute again, but the Vikings are able to hang on to the lead for the 73-71 victory. Up next, we get Coach Billiter's thoughts on the weekend's performance, but before we do, let's get to know Coach Billiter a little better with our Vikings Vote question of the week. What's Coach Billiter's most used phrase during practice or in the film room? A, look at this. B, drive, drive, drive. C, this isn't highlight tape. Or D, this won't cut it.
Augustana All Access on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Classic Import.
Welcome back to Augustana All Access. Once again, I am joined by Coach Tom Billiter to go over the weekend in men's basketball against Upper Iowa and Winona State. And Coach, these were 2 really close games. They were all decided by a combined 6 points, and Upper Iowa really kind of came down to that last 3-point shot, and you could say maybe the free throw line. So did they have an advantage, the Peacocks? Did they have an advantage maybe outside of the getting to the foul line?
You know, it was a great game. They did a better job of being more aggressive, so they did get more free throws. It's such a, we were just talking earlier off camera, you tie it up on a great shot by Jordan. He goes in hard, ties it up with about 5 seconds left, and you just, kind of have this feeling of elation, for lack of a better word, and relief. And 4.8 seconds later, they're down on the other end hitting a 30-foot three. Credit them. That's what we do. I like to get that thing in and go. Don't set up your defenses. I'm not sure any team had timeouts left anyways. And on the flip side, no matter what, you have to play the full 40-minute game, and you have to get that stop. You have to make sure that doesn't happen. I did think we defended it pretty well. He hit a tough shot, but those things happen. And again, credit Upper Iowa. They're having a great year. They were a game ahead of us going into it. Never an easy place to play. Thought our kids hung in there well. I thought they played hard and lost a very competitive, very good basketball game. So, you move on, and I'll tell you, that was the first loss we've had, Carl, in a while where I felt the effects of it the entire next day too, in the sense I always do. I could tell our team was for lack of a better word, they were down. They were beat up. They were to lose 4 games like we have in the last seconds. It takes a little bit out of it. It takes a toll, and as a staff, it was our job to get them going again. We didn't even talk about Friday night. All our attention was to the game Saturday, the game at hand. And even then, I told my staff going into the Winona game, I go, I don't know where we're at. It was a tough 22 hours, trust me.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jordan Spencer in that game. He had a career high. Mike Busak had a great game, and Steven Schaefer. They all put up double digits. Were you looking for anybody else to step up in that game, or was that really not?
We have a certain, I would say almost, formula that we feel like has to happen for us to be successful outside of our defense. But offensively, you kind of know what you're going to get with certain guys. But we always need somebody to kind of step up and maybe give you a little bit more. And what's funny is how much more could Marcus have given us against Moorhead? 26 points, 10 boards, yet we lost in double overtime. But each game we need somebody, whether it be a starter or not, to maybe give us an extra 10 or find an extra 12 somewhere. And we don't really, it's by committee, and I thought Steven Schaefer, you mentioned, and he's always been, able to get us points, but his defense and what have you, I thought he came off the bench and played very well for us. Then the next night, out of nowhere, when we're much better when we do get that production, we get 10 points out of Marcus and 10 points out of Zach. So our fives gave us 20 points the next night, and we were able to win. So never specifically anybody, but our formula always is somebody has got to come up and do something for us.
Right, and you mentioned earlier in your answer, kind of the margin of defeat. I kind of added it up this week. It's just 3.8 points in the 5 conference losses. How does that, what does that tell you about your team? I know we kind of talked earlier this season. You got the target on your back, and teams are giving their best shot, but they're really taking it all the way to the final second.
I think it really, to come back and beat Winona in a game we probably should have lost. We were down 13 to start the second half, and they were playing very, very well. And it is funny how you say that. We watched every game Winona's played, and that's by far the best I've seen them play. It isn't even close. I mean, they had a great, they had 1,400, and their facility doesn't seat a lot of people yet. It will when they're done with it. It was a very good atmosphere, and their kids played extremely well and deserved that game. I felt like we should have won Friday night, lost Saturday. It was backwards, and for whatever reason. But it's. I like the tenacity and the toughness of our kids. To get back to your question, it's not one thing. But to lose those games by that amount of points and continue to bounce back and keep getting splits other than our weekend at home with Southwest State and USF, it does show a desire to win, a toughness. It's not easy to lose a game like that in Fayette, Iowa, drive 2 hours plus to Winona, get in late, dejected, and to get up the next morning and come back and beat a team that played as well as they played all year. So it does show me a character and a toughness that I'm very proud of our team, and thought they did a great job to come back and get that win.
Yeah, and they've been able to do that in back-to-back weeks to get the win on Saturday after
for years. It's been for years. It's not very often they lose 2 in a row. So, always a tough group and desire to win and good team chemistry helps you in those situations.
Right. Did you feel like one? I know you say you felt like you might should have won the Upper Iowa game and lost the Winona State. Which one was the most complete game out of those two?
I thought, to be honest, this is not a cop-out answer. We played pretty well both games. I know if you looked at the score of the Upper Iowa, you're going to say, how can you say defense was complete? And that was probably a little bit of our weakness, but they're such a good scoring team. They have 6 kids averaging 10 points or more, 6, and great chemistry at home, and almost all juniors and seniors. They aren't playing any young kids. They're all upper class and have been together for 3 and 4 years. And, that's kind of was, I thought that was a huge part of our run the last 2 years, was having upperclassmen, kids that were used to being on the road, used to the facilities we're playing in, used to our routine and knowing our system. And now I still have a nice group of doing that. It's been new for Mike Busak, but he has really taken it, in stride and really learned what we do, and it's been very good for us. And our freshmen keep getting better. So, we're still teaching half our team everything. And then we've got a nice little nucleus, a nice little core that's pretty familiar with what we're doing. But for the 2 years before that, everybody was on the same page. That makes a big difference.
Right. right. And this week you've got Minnesota Duluth, who's 3-11 in the conference right now, and then St. Cloud State, who's doing pretty well at 10-4. The month of February, it's a big month in basketball. What do you need to see in this final weekend in January to kind of maybe get some momentum heading into a good, strong finish?
That's a great question. Isn't it funny that we're talking month of February? I don't know where it's gone. It is. It's just gone so fast. But I've always felt like the teams that are still enjoying each other's company, being at practice, being together on the road, I've always felt the teams that still have a goal or something in mind that they're striving for. I believe the teams that just like playing basketball, they do the best in February. And the thing about our team, we're still getting better. We're improving our defense. We're getting better at what we do, and we approach each practice that way. So I think you go one of two directions, and we're on that cusp right now. I mean, we're right there as long as we keep winning to make the tournament. But we don't have a lot of wiggle room, So we've got a goal and we've got a desire, and you just got to get in that field of, you got to get in the field of 64. When that happens, anything can happen, and so that's our major goal. And so our guys will continue to practice hard and play hard. So I don't know if there's a secret to it. I just think the teams that still are loving the game and enjoy playing. Having said that, the teams we play in February still want to beat us, because some of them have never beaten us in the last few years. So, we always get everyone's best shot. We do. Upper Iowa played great against us. Winona played their best game of the year against us. And, that's what's going to happen throughout the rest of this season. And, we got to be ready for it.
All right, Coach, thanks so much. We'll see you back here
Thank
next
you, Carla.
week. Well, after the break, we're going to review the women's weekend with Coach Krauth. Welcome back to Augustana All Access. I am joined by Coach Dave Krauth to go over the weekend and the women's games from Upper Iowa and Winona State. And Coach, two really nice wins this weekend. Let's start with Upper Iowa. On Friday, you beat them 65-49, and it just seemed like everything was a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. Is that how you'd assess this win?
Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was. It's just a place that makes me extremely nervous. I don't think we've lost down there. I might be wrong on that in my tenure here, but it's just they've always got at least an outstanding player, and they're good at home and this, and they were right there, and like so many of their games, it happens exactly the same the next night against Wayne. They kind of let it go later in the game, and we didn't shoot great, we didn't do anything really great, but just got enough, and got through a game that, like I said, typically makes me real nervous.
Right, and you outscored them by 10 in the second and fourth quarter, I think. So was that anything to do with adjustments being made mid-game, maybe from those first and third quarters?
Yeah, it's hard. It doesn't really jump in my head, but we did make a couple of adjustments and this and that. Sometimes it's kind of our lineups that we have on the court also. And oftentimes we may end up with a little smaller lineup at times, and that's been pretty productive for us when we have got a lineup that we may press a little better with or whatever. So that does sometimes happen, but you hope that maybe your depth pays off come fourth quarters, and in this case, it went our way.
And then you told us off camera about this, but a little off-court story is that you lost your uniforms from that night on the way to Winona State. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we didn't know that, but we always, bag up all our uniforms from the game and so after Upper Iowa, we went to Winona, and same thing, and then get back and start looking, and we only have one bag of uniforms, and so we kind of questioned people, did somebody take them in that wasn't, and so actually Katie Burke, our assistant, did all the legwork, calling both schools and calling the motel that we had been in at Friday night, and I did ask the bus driver at that point if he thought, he didn't recall, but had taken what looked like a garbage,
trash.
And thrown it in the dumpster. So it in the end, it worked out. There was somebody yet in Sioux Falls, or from Sioux Falls in Winona, that the lady from the motel found him, and then we got somebody to pick him up, and it all turned out well. But it was a little nerve-wracking that night.
Yeah, kind of a crazy story there,
yeah.
but it must have brought you some luck because then, at Winona State, that's even a bigger win, and you were able, they were ranked number 17th, and you not only handed them their third loss in conference, but you beat them by 17. So how'd you do it? What were the keys in that win?
It was really one of our best games. Maybe our best. It's hard to sometimes compare, but got off to a pretty good start. And our kids, you could just tell we got off to probably the worst start of the year last year at their place and just played terribly. And I think they reminded, each other of that. We got off to a good start, actually got in a little bit of foul trouble, and had a couple kids come off the bench and do that got a lot more minutes than maybe they normally would have, and but just seemed to piece together. Maybe that little that beginning of the third quarter, got a little hairy where that lead seemed to disappear. But other than that point, we just played good, solid basketball all night.
Right. And then this week you've got Minnesota Duluth and St. Cloud State, which are upper to the middle of the pack teams in the conference. So I always like to ask coaches this before we get to the month of February. February is so important in basketball, right before the conference tournament. So what's your team have to do this weekend to kind of set up that momentum heading into February?
Well, you're right. February, you just look and it's like a week away here, and we won't really maybe focus on it or verbalize it, but just like our game at Winona, I think our kids are starting to sense that too, that, we just don't have games that we can come and have, big lulls in them. Maybe your shooting will leave you whatever, but the energy level has to be very good. And we're going to just try to emphasize that. Good teams, Duluth went to Moorhead this weekend and gave them their first loss of the conference season, so they're a very good team, and have somebody that I probably would have won the Player of the Year award in the league back this year that has really helped that team out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Coach. We'll see you back here next week. Well, up next, we're going to check in with number 23 from the men's team. It's a sit-down with Jordan Spencer when we come back. Welcome back. This week we're revealing our Player of the Week a segment early. Jordan Spencer reached 1,000 career points this weekend during Augustana's game with Winona State. That was after he reached a career-high 34 points the night before against Upper Iowa. The 6'2" junior guard flew over an ocean to be a Viking just a few years back. Hear how he became a Viking and what his plans are for the future.
Jordan Spencer from the United Kingdom. It was quite a different recruiting process. Augustana was in England at the time and just running a basketball camp for kids and stuff like that, and I went along to it because it was free, and kind of met with ex-coach Jeff Chambra, who's now at Black Hills State, and he kind of liked what he saw, and my dream was to come to America, and he offered me a full scholarship. I liked how kind of the location. So it was quite a quiet place, quiet school, keep me out of trouble, and kind of just more culture, different culture than I'm used to. So definitely another thing that I enjoyed. No, the weather is terrible. I came here in December 2013, and it was like minus 50 with wind chill, and I looked on my weather app the day before I flew, and I was like, it must be broke or something. This can't be right. Because how cold it is. Like in England, it gets to like 40s and 50s. That's pretty cold for us, and rainy. But no, I haven't experienced weather like this. It's been great. I couldn't have wrote a better picture. Coming in freshman year, we had a great season and winning freshman of the year and learning a lot from the experienced guys. And obviously, winning the national championship and then having a great game this year like Duke. I think I've ticked all the boxes so far of an experience. So I've definitely been blessed to experience the things I've done so far, but yeah, I'm just enjoying every minute of it right now. I knew I was close that night, but after seeing the messages and kind thoughts from other people, it's great to see that people care about that kind of thing. There's great names in there that I'm sharing that title with, Al Richter, Casey, Dan, Cody Schilling, and things like that. So it's definitely I appreciate the honor that it is, and yeah, I'm just glad that I could make it too. Obviously, team-wise, it's always going to be a national championship. You know, hopefully we'll peak at the right times towards the end of the season and the postseason. And with it being in Sioux Falls, that's the greatest motivation there is. Individually, I feel like as long as I just keep improving, stay hungry, because after I know that I want to play overseas and professional, so you know I can't really lack in any kind of area. So I just got to keep pushing myself every day. Oh, I love soccer all the time. The games come on really early over here, so like 6, 7 a.m. I'll set my alarm and watch my team play. And I got a couple of my teammates interested in that too, so they'll start watching it and playing some soccer video games and things like that. So, yeah, FIFA. I try to integrate that slowly freshman year. No one really was liking it, but now like I'm an upperclassman and people started playing the game a little bit more, and we play it on the bus and things like that. So. Oh yeah. It took a while. Not a lot of people liked it at first, but yeah, I think I've made it cool now.
Up next, Jordan Spencer helps us reveal the answer to this week's Vikings vote. Trust us, you don't want to miss it.
Augustana All Access on Midco Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Classic Import.
It's time for the answer to this week's Vikings vote. We can't take you inside the meeting room where the Vikings go over film, but we can maybe give you a little peek to what players hear. Our question this week, what's Coach Billiter's most used phrase during practice or in the film room? Your choices were A, look at this, B, drive, 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 C, this isn't highlight tape, or D, this won't cut it. Jordan Spencer helps us with this week's answer.
During film, we watch films on other teams, and we know that it's not a highlight tape because he's just playing it through. And you know, before it starts, we take bets on over and under how many times he's going to say, "This isn't a highlight tape. This is them playing. This is a highlight tape." So we kind of say over or under 5 or 6, or we just take small bets before film, things like that. So hopefully this doesn't get back to him, but he does say that quite a lot. It's not a highlight tape.
A little funny hearing Jordan Spencer lose his accent there, but it's the little things like that that bring teams together and help with cohesion during long seasons. Well, that's all we have for you on this week's episode of Augustana All Access. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for watching.